Welcome back for part 2 in our series. Now, if you haven't seen part 1, be sure to check it out on our YouTube page. Join me now as we continue our tour. The 12 apostles, the 12 disciples. We've heard these names all along. Well, let's try to sort it out. By definition, a disciple is a student, one who learns from a teacher. Whereas an apostle, well, apostle means messenger, one who's sent to deliver those teachings to others. So we've all heard about the 12 disciples. Well, I'll tell you, they weren't the upper class people. They were commoners instead, and in some cases, they were actually outcasts. But in the end, no matter what they did had a great impact. So let's take a visit to each of these disciples. Our first stop here at the windows of the disciples is right here. On the right is the story of Peter, the Apostle Peter. He was also known as Simon, very, very strong-willed and extremely close to Jesus, had a firm belief in all of Christ's teachings. Well, if you pan down just a moment, you're going to see some keys. Well, you may be familiar with, in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus telling Peter, "I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven," therefore represented by the keys. Drop down to a short distance, you see a rooster. Well, we know the story here. Close to Christ's crucifixion, Jesus said to Peter, "Before the rooster crows twice, you'll deny me 3 times." If we can take a look up at the very top of this panel, in the center is an inverted cross. This represents the method in which Peter was crucified. He was crucified upside down. To the left of that is the panel devoted to the Apostle Andrew. He was the brother of Peter and was the very first disciple selected. Dropping down, you'll see a cross. That's the Andrew cross, because he also was crucified. But what's important about Andrew is that he introduced the others to Christ, being the first one selected. Down below, you can see some representatives of some fish. Andrew originally left his fishing to follow John the Baptist, and then later did the same thing and followed Jesus. Here on the right, we have the panels celebrating the life of James the Greater. James the Greater was the brother of John, and he was a fisherman. And if you come down and look, the panel where you see, it looks like a knife and some shells. Well, he was a fisherman, and he was the first to be killed, and he was killed by King Herod. Dropping down further, you'll see a representation that shows a pilgrim hat and a staff. This symbolizes and refers to his travels to establish the church in Spain. On the left is the panel representing John. John, kind of the symbol of ego, being man of action. He wrote 5 books of the Bible and was very close to Jesus. It was John, along with Peter, who discovered the empty tomb after the crucifixion. Take a look here at a little panel that indicates a cup and a serpent coming from the cup. John survived an attempt on his life because there was poison in that cup and he didn't drink it. In fact, John was the only of the disciples that simply died of natural causes when he was very old. On the right is the Philip window. Philip, as a disciple, was a friend of Bartholomew. He was very warm-hearted. And if we come down, we'll see a basket of bread. Well, Philip was very instrumental in the feeding of the multitude. Drop down a bit further, right here, we have a staff and 2 loaves of bread. This is in reference to Philip's journeys to Asia, preaching the good news. Philip, after his death, and he was a death by a martyr, he was wrapped in papyrus and not linen because he felt that he was not worthy, like Christ, to be wrapped in linen. To his left is his friend, Bartholomew. Bartholomew was also known as Nathaniel, and very little in the Bible is known about him. The first section here is symbolic of a fig tree. Well, Christ saw Bartholomew under a fig tree before even being introduced by Philip. And down here below, the knives appear once again, indicating a violent death because of his belief in Christ's teachings. Thanks for watching part 2 of our presentation, where we learned about 6 of the 12 disciples. Stay tuned for part 3 as we meet the rest. In the meantime, we invite you to check out our website where we have a photo gallery of these windows. And in addition to that, please join us each Sunday on Facebook and YouTube, where we live stream our services.